Good morning. It is what time? 8:03. 8:03 a.m. on Tuesday, March 9th, 2021. I'm Christiana Ellis, and I kind of just got up. This is 5 more minutes. Been puttering around a little bit. Um, so I'm doing all right this morning. Still working from home. Probably will all this week. And just, doing my thing. I'm playing a little bit of a game called Maquette on PS4. It's a new game, also available on PC and PS5, I think. I'm not sure if it's on Xbox or not. I don't know. But I'm playing it on PS4, which, it's obvious actually playing it that, like, it's a little bit choppy in a way that I think it probably wouldn't be on the PS5 or even the PS4 Pro for that matter. But guess what? Still don't have a PS5 because that sucks. Um, but it's fine. It's an interesting concept though, and it actually plays with some ideas that have had kind of half formed in my head for a D&D thing. But the basic concept of it is that you have this sort of, imagine a park, all right, where in the center of the park there's a gazebo, and you go under the gazebo and you find inside there is like a table size, like model diorama of that park that you're in, right? But then you look down into the little gazebo in that model of the park, and it's got an even tinier little model of the park in there. And then you start getting suspicious. You say, wait a minute. And then you start going back out into the big park that you're in, and you start walking out to the borders of that park, and you start looking around, and you say, wait, oh no, the sky is a big gazebo. I'm not in the biggest version of the park. There's an even bigger one out there. And then if there are various items that you'll find here and there that are linked in a way that, like, if you went to one of the tiny versions and you found a normal sized key, like say leaning against like a mailbox, right? Where because it's a tiny diorama and it's a normal sized key, the key is as tall as the mailbox, right? If you go out to the bigger version of the park and find that mailbox, it'll have a key that's proportionally that much bigger. And so you use that to solve puzzles. Is you get these various items where, the great big giant key might be too big for you to use in a certain lock, but the little one is the right size. Whereas if you take that little key and you say, hey, in my big version of the park, there's this gap that I can't cross. But if I go to the little version and I take the little key and I use it to make a bridge over that little gap, and then I go out to my big version, and now the big version of the key is got a big, it is making a bridge for the big gap. It's kind of neat. I'm liking it. It's also it's clearly doing an emotional storytelling thing, telling about the formation and then dissolution of a romantic relationship. So, I guess your mileage may vary about whether you want to play a game about that or not. But in any case, I like it. Also, I rewatched for the first time The Black Cauldron. Now, this movie had always been a little bit infamous in my head because way back when that movie first came out, let's see, when was that? 85, I want to say? Yeah, 85. So I was 7 years old. I remember going to see it in the theater with my mom and my brother, and my mom and my brother leaving in the middle because it was too scary for my then 4-year-old brother. And I vaguely remember feeling like I think I stayed and watched the whole thing. Like that's the memory I have in my head. But of course, at 7, it's one of those memories where, it's like it's been kind of overwritten so many times. It's like a bad VHS tape. So who knows what really happened? I could ask my mom, I guess. But but ever since, like, the Black Cauldron kind of has this reputation of like a real misfire from the Disney animation studios, in the sense of being like too dark and also just kind of weird and all sorts of things there. But I hadn't really rewatched it at all since then, and so I did yesterday because it's on Disney Plus. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot scarier than your average Disney cartoon. It is rated PG. Um, so, like, I don't want to say it's not scary, like, as a grown up, but, like, for a little kid, sure, yeah, definitely. Um, but it's also kind of just not very good. Like, it has a lot of, like, interesting ideas in it, and it has a lot of, like, I feel like I remember hearing that it's based on a book, but it's like one of the weird things is that we have two old man characters that actually look remarkably similar, even though they're actually supposed to be completely different characters, which is a little bit confusing. And there's a lot of sequences that just like, it's not that the animation is bad, like it doesn't look bad, but just there's a lot of sequences where like these huge climactic tense things are supposed to be happening and it just feels kind of plodding. It almost made me think of how D&D combat necessarily slows things down. Like you could spend 20 minutes doing a round of combat that's really only supposed to be 6 seconds, right? In the the reality of the fiction, because you're just negotiating all of these rules and everything. Like there's sequences where it just feels like everything is taking a really long time to happen, and I don't know. I mean, it's just like it was interesting kind of to revisit and first of all recognize that pretty much the only things I remembered about it at all was Gurgi, this little, like cross a like Gollum with like a sheepdog. I remember that little character because I remember that he died in it, and of course because it's a Disney cartoon, like he comes back at the end. So spoilers. But that's really all I remembered about it. And so I don't know, like it was interesting. It's got some interesting stuff in it, but it's also just kind of like, yeah, I think maybe that's actually, in hindsight, more of the reason it's not so well remembered is not because, oh, it's this weird tonal misfire for Disney where they made it too dark and scary. It's like, no, it's just kind of not as good. Anyway, I'll go ahead and leave it there, and I will talk to you all tomorrow for 5 more minutes.